So, hello everyone, and let me introduce my guest for today's podcast. Her name is Melissa. Melissa is an emotional healing life coach. She is an innovator, intuitive mystic, poet, visionary, and a healer. She works with professionals to break through abandonment, guilt, shame, people pleasing, perfectionism, and ridicule to live your best life. Welcome, Melissa. So great to have you here.
Oh my gosh, Anka, it's so great to be here. I am super excited to
For
be here with
sure.
you today.
Yeah, interesting. And we have been having a lot of conversation on our Instagram DMs about mindfulness, and I saw a lot of your stuff about mindfulness. So, real quickly, can you tell me what do you describe as mindfulness?
Mindfulness is a practice of, for me at least, it's a practice of living in the present moment and stepping into a place of awareness. So, what that means is that rather than me experiencing life from a fully emotional level, like feeling like everything is happening against me or there is an emotional attachment to an experience, I actually get to become the observer. So it's almost like watching my life play out from the eyes or from the lens of a movie director as opposed to maybe the actor. So an actor's being told, an actor's following the script or a screenplay,
Yeah.
right? But a director is directing the movie to a certain extent. But directing the movie and also being aware of how the role of the key character is interweaving with the other characters in the movie. So I'll just summarize that again. Mindfulness is a practice of presence and awareness. This is my definition. So I get to step into the place of the observer, observing life, observing what is happening. And from that space, I get to discern the choices that I want to make. So there's less of an emotional charge behind my choices.
Interesting. And recently, I've been listening to this podcast, Joe Rogan podcast, and there was an Indian mystique on there, Sadhguru. So they were talking about something in the similar lines, you should not live what you can say reactively. So every event around you is an trigger, and how you react to it determines how you are living. So is there any semblance between mindfulness and being we can say a silent observer kind of thing?
Yes. Absolutely, being the silent observer. I think what happens is that, when we're born, right, everything about life revolves around us. It revolves around you as the baby. That is your world. And what happens is as we grow up, often we don't evolve that concept of self. And so we react to everything that's happening in the world. We react we personalize every experience. Right? But if we become the observer, then we step into a place where we are a part of life. We're not separate to life. Because Ankit, when I feel that life is against me, or I'll go back to life is against me, like things are happening against me or happening for me even, then that puts me separate to life. But if from the place of an observer and from a spiritual perspective, accept that actually I am part of life, like in nature. The flower doesn't stand there in the field and goes, I'm a flower. The flower is part of the entire ecosystem. It's part of nature. And as humans, through mindfulness, we can return back to our nature, which is part of life. And when we're part of life, then we hold the space within us of pure love, knowing that we're always supported, knowing that everything that is happening, we're observing in life, is part of a greater plan and is happening for us. It changes the perspective of life. I'll pause there.
Interesting. And since the life nowadays it has too many stimuli, everything around you sending you notification, and somehow it wants to trigger your emotional reaction, or somehow it wants you to take action. So in this time, highly modernized time, is there any way, or should one practice meditation, or one should practice are there any steps anyone can start taking just
Yeah.
today to break away from this?
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like, there's so much information, like you said, even about mindfulness and meditation
Yeah.
at the moment, and it can be very overwhelming. And what I notice immediately for the majority of people when I mention mindfulness and meditation is like, oh, that's too hard. I can't do that, because there is a concept that's being sold, that's being commercialized. What I would say is an introduction to meditation and to mindfulness is that in many instances in your life, please know that you're already practicing it to a certain extent. You're already practicing a form of mindfulness and a form of meditation. And making a choice to practice it more is just expanding your awareness on that. Okay? Now, the reason why I say that is because intrinsically, when you want to invite something new into your life, it feels like such a big step to start something new.
Yeah.
So my approach is always to say to people, you are actually already practicing it. You're just not aware you are practicing it. So my invitation and my approach is, let's explore where you're already practicing that. Now, the difference between mindfulness and meditation is that with mindfulness, you're practicing being the silent observer, the quiet observer of something. So right now, Ankit, I would say to you, what are you noticing right now? Name me 5 things that you're just noticing, and don't overthink it. What's the first thing that comes to your mind as I'm saying this to you?
So first thing comes that my fan is making noise. So that's the first thing. And I can
Okay.
hear that through my microphone and headphone. So that's the first thing I'm noticing. The second thing is that I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at you. So that's the second thing. Third, in my peripheral vision is the camera. So I'm constantly checking that is it running smoothly or not. And so there are a lot of stimuli all around me. So there's a light from here. So these are the physical, I can say,
Okay, beautiful.
things I'm noticing at the moment.
And these are the physical things you can say you're noticing outside of yourself. So notice how your default setting is to bring awareness to what is outside of yourself. So if I may, are you open to playing a little bit? We just explore this
For
a little
sure,
bit?
definitely.
Okay. So my invitation now is, as a self-awareness practice, could you name me 3 things that you're noticing in your body? Physically, but not outside of yourself, instead physically within yourself. 3 things.
First, which comes to me that I'm feeling hot. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm feeling numbness on my leg. So I'll have to shift my leg. So that's the second thing. And yeah, third, it's so difficult to figure out like what I'm feeling internally.
So again, I'd just love to say to you is, I really want to honor your awareness. You see, you went, oh, I noticed my leg is numb. I need to move it. See, already that practice of mindfulness has taken you into a different space. All right. You said you were hot. So is there something we could do to relieve that? And then you said, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. And I want to say to you, Ankit, would you be open to receiving the fact that it's not difficult? It's just inviting more space into your living. It's almost like we're saying it's difficult because you want to be able to give me an answer now. But I never said you have to let me know immediately.
Yeah.
Right? And the more time you spend, the more space you offer yourself, the more connected you are with the sensations within your body and the experience that you're having as a beautiful living human being. But I just want to bring a couple of points to this, right? We invited you to practice this, try mindfulness. So you are already doing it. See, I didn't need to teach you anything. You're already doing it. It's just about committing the time. What we did that in 3 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Start in baby steps. And just notice. You're just noticing. And then also noticing how you talk to yourself. Like, oh my gosh, it's really hard. Is it really hard? You did it effortlessly. It looked effortless to me. Okay? So the awareness. You're noticing first what's on the outside and then what's on the inside. So I would take anybody through different levels of this. And it's play. It's adventure. It's exploration. There's no right or wrong. Okay? Now, meditation is awareness of nothing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. So this took me a long time to kind of get my head around. It's like, how am I aware of nothing? Because if I'm aware of nothing, isn't that something?
Yeah.
And that's the thing about meditation. It's not a destination. And what happens with meditation is through the practice of mindfulness, committed mindfulness, it can lead to meditation. So they kind of mirror each other. I mean, the definitions, I'm a bit wary of definitions because I don't want people to be limited by them. But I think that the most simple definition is mindfulness is the practice of self-awareness. It's noticing something. And meditation is being with nothing. And you can reach, I just said don't focus on a destination, but meditation is an experience you arrive at through mindfulness. That's my experience. And it's the being with a nothingness. And the nothingness is also everything, but without definition. It's like absolute presence.
Interesting. Okay. And one thing, like we generally have tendency to label everything which we are observing. So we are very, we can say, fearful of unknown. That if something unknown is happening with us, we want something to label it and really quickly. Like we want to label it really quickly. So that's the thing I've found with the meditation. Like we want immediate results. Like I'm just closing eyes, I should feel good. So that's the general notion around meditation. And when I tried meditation, so it's been a really funny story with me. Like because in my school it is called Maharishi Vidya Mandir. So it's founded by, I don't know if you are aware, but there was a transcendental meditation teacher.
I am a TM practitioner.
Yeah, so he went from India to, I think, London, and his name I'm forgetting. I think his name is Mahesh Yogi and something in the similar lines. So he was a transcendental meditation coach, and he took that knowledge to like abroad and made it very popular. So the institution has schools here, and it was a public school, and I went there, and they were teaching us meditation from the young age of, well, I can say 10 years.
Fantastic.
So, but real funny story, if you are trying to teach meditation to a bunch of teenagers, they are not gonna learn. So we would just fall asleep on our benches, or we would just like start giggling. And there I noticed at like there's a lot of teachings available, I think, in the Eastern countries, and it is so available that we somehow do not value it.
That's interesting.
Like abundance is so much. Like I can go anywhere here and I can found some meditation camps, like around in a 100-kilometer direction, anywhere I can found meditation camps or someone who's teaching meditation in some form or method. But it's so abundant and so cheaply available, like we do not value it so much. So have you observed the similar thing, like when you move from London to, I can say, Malaysia, like east or west? What's the difference between approach of people from these places?
I would say, at least from my experience, traditionally, the sort of South Asian, Southeast Asian territories, I would say, because sort of spirituality, I'll say, is very much also part of culture.
Yeah.
That it's it's a way of life.
Yeah.
And less something that is separate, like, oh, I am a yogi. You know how now everybody, you're either a yogi, or how we identify, like you said, we need to label everything. You know, I'm a coach, I'm a yogi, I'm a strategist, I'm a designer, you know, I'm a dancer, I'm a meditator. So what I noticed between these different regions is people are now sort of adding things into their toolbox, whereas previously and historically, meditation was a way of life. I mean, another form of meditation essentially is, many people refer to it as a form of prayer. It's time you take for yourself for quiet contemplation. Prayer isn't just about asking or giving thanks. It's actually being quiet, going inward, going within and noticing what's happening with you, and then also asking. But these are different expressions of meditation. I want to touch a little bit on what you talked about identity. Like we want to label things because we just don't like the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to speak to anybody here who is afraid of the unknown, is to let you know that you are wired. You, me, Ankit, every human being walking this planet is wired to navigate the unknown. It's literally in our brain. I'm not going to go into the technicalities. It's the hippocampus, it's the amygdala. Can't remember which one it is, but it's there to scan for danger in the unknown to keep us alive. So you can give yourself a little bit of respite and chill on the worrying, the overthinking about the unknown, resting in the knowledge that your body is already wired for it. So why not bring a little bit of curiosity and adventure and play into the unknown? Because if you know my body's wired for this, then I can be like, okay, so what's next? What's next? As opposed to, oh my God, what's next? You see the difference in that expression? And you get to choose the experience you create. So when I choose the experience like this, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm already feeling tension, that awareness. I'm feeling tension in my body. I'm making myself smaller. My mind, my thoughts are narrowing into what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
But if I remember, hey, I'm wired for the unknown. Okay, what's coming? Then I actually have no thoughts. I'm completely open to what's coming. It's a very different feeling. See, even my whole body language is open. It's like I'm welcoming life to come to me.
Yeah. Interesting idea. For sure. And I completely agree with you. Like there's a whole evolutionary stuff going on with the fear and stuff like that. Because we have to,
Yes.
like when we were in the jungle, we have to be aware about our surrounding. And every sound which was coming to us was either a danger, or we have to notice it and then make our plans according to it. So now we are
Yes.
in the urban jungle, it's a complete different story.
And I'm so glad you said that, because urban jungle, because our lifestyle, our modern day lifestyle, is actually highly stressful. Highly stressful. But the system that's running in us is really primitive. It doesn't know, it has not been able to sort of update itself.
Yeah.
So that's where our awareness can play a part. So we're not reacting emotionally, but instead, through mindfulness and meditation, we step into that powerful place of self-awareness. And from a place of self-awareness, we can also notice our emotions, but not be attached to them. When we notice our emotions, we can understand what it is that our emotions are telling us, because emotions are a language in and of themselves. So I'll stop there.
Interesting concept. And most of the times we are running on autopilot. Like we control very minimal amount of our body and our actions.
Yes.
And that's something like most of the marketers out there, like me, like they use or abuse. So they know what kind of words or what kind of sound or what kind of lighting colors will trick you or will trigger your certain interactions or certain emotions from you. So they will either ask you to buy something, or so they know this psychological tricks and things to use this. So that's an interesting concept, and you will have to, even if you are aware about this, like this is happening to me, it is so, we can say, deeply embedded and encoded in our every aspect of life that we will have to fight harder to, we can say, avoid that.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because my practice is always to notice our conditioning, right? And our programming, just like you said. So it's like the last words I heard you say is to fight to avoid that. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. Okay. So I would love to invite you and everybody listening to notice where you feel you have to fight something or avoid something. How about instead you don't fight? And I don't, and in a way, I mean surrender to the experience, because we learn through experience. If you hold the intention that life is always supporting you because you're a part of life, then even when things don't go wrong anymore for you, things just happen. Life happens, and you learn. You make a discerned choice. You make a discernment to choose, what can I learn from this experience? So then you're never fighting life.
Yeah.
The struggle comes when we're fighting, because I have an expectation of an outcome. That didn't happen. and now I feel angry or I feel sad and I want to blame something or look for where it went wrong. But with awareness, yes, you look at where it didn't go to plan. I wouldn't even say it went wrong. See, I changed the language. Didn't go to plan because I'm dealing with the unknown every day. I have no idea what the outcome is going to turn out. I have an intention. I have a goal. If I use the strategy and the goal doesn't come to fruition, then with awareness, I invite, what was the strategy? What can I try differently? But I'm not fighting anything and I'm not avoiding anything. Because the more I fight something, the harder the fight becomes. If I can surrender to it, then my field of vision is also broader. And I certainly don't want to avoid something, because in life, at least I know from my experience, the more I avoid something, the more it's going to come to me. Because the very thing I'm avoiding is going to be one of my greatest teachers.
Interesting. And I have been on this, there are two, I can say, thought process going on inside our culture. So one is that of high achievers, like hustle culture, and you'll have to push yourself to the limit to achieve something, to achieve greatness. So that's one thought process. And another is which we can say work-life balance, and be kind to yourself, and at the same time, like we can say, take care of yourself, like your inner child, you have to conserve that. So that's another approach. And another approach, like there's a huge difference in there. One person is saying that you'll have to wake up at the 4 a.m. and go to gym and work out and whatever, like take some protein pills and stuff like that, and be energetic and do your work like 18 hours a day, and then you will achieve something and you'll do something worthwhile. And another, we can say, thought leader is saying that you will have to excuse yourself, take some break and work on yourself. If you're not feeling like working, then don't work. So these are the two different ideologies at our current time that's going on. So where do you find yourself in this? Is there a balance, or you'll have to go either way?
I love this question that you're asking, and I love that you're bringing this to the awareness of your community listening, because this is so important. And this touches upon people's mental health and emotional well-being, because absolutely there is so much information out there talking about how to be successful, what being a high achiever means. But at the same time, everybody's barking on about self-care, self-love. And what is being put out there can be so conflicting, right? What I would say is there is no one size fits all. And so, again, I go back to this. Be childlike, be curious, be adventurous, and be playful. The information that you're reading, if it lights you up, right? Or if it lights you up, it sparks a curiosity and interest in you, try it. You won't know unless you try it. Give yourself a time limit. There'll always be a recommendation. Some people say it takes 90 minutes to create a habit. 90 days to create a habit. Yeah. You try it for 90 days. And if after 90 days you feel terrible, then you know that's not for you. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means it's not for you, because we have to remember we are all different. Okay? If after 90 days you feel it's worked for you, fantastic, keep doing it. However, it's also very important to remain aware, because life is all about cycles, right? I mean, Ankit, when you think back to how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
22.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're 22. Now remember when you were 10. Remember your energy level when you were 10. Okay? Yeah. Remember how you used to eat. What were your eating patterns like? Would you say they're the same as the Ankit now at 22?
No, a lot has changed.
A lot has changed, exactly. So we change, therefore our patterns of behavior need to change, need to be updated. So it's important that once you find your rhythm, like if waking up at 4 and doing a hard workout and working 18 hours a day works for you after you've tried it for 90 days, fantastic. But make sure that you keep noticing with awareness how you feel. You still feel good, because often we go, like you said, we go into autopilot and we don't notice when our habits and our patterns of behavior are actually no longer serving us. And I fell victim of that. I definitely fell victim of that. I would push beyond my limit because I was just stuck in a pattern of behavior that once upon a time was working for me. And after many years, it was actually causing me ill health. Another reason why mindfulness and meditation is a very important practice to incorporate into your life if you can.
Interesting, for sure. And another, my personal question is here. So I am a science graduate. So I come from the background of science, and when I was like in the pursuit of science, and I was like, that's my journey. So I was pursuing like astrophysics and all the stuff, cosmology and that stuff.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, amazing.
So
Love
I've
that.
been constantly learning about that, how the stars are formed and everything that around that. So for me, that was journey to find myself. Like in this vast universe, who am I and what's my purpose? So somehow that science took me back to spirituality. Like I was not getting my, I can say, answer 100% in the science. So they are very, very honest about that. Like we do not know who you are, but we know how you are, like how you came here. We have some like scientific knowledge about that. Then when I go back to spirituality, you have to filter a lot, because a lot of spiritual people are trying to answer the questions of science. Like they want to answer some scientific questions like how does the life evolve and everything like that through the lens of religion and their spiritual text and everything through that. So that's what I think keeps a lot of, we can say, educated, or the person who just like has some knowledge about science and how it works from exploring this field. Like they think it's too woo woo, like wow, you're talking about something which is completely illogical, and somehow it limits a lot of good practices. Like it keeps them from learning about meditation or positive thinking, this stuff like that. So they think this stuff is also illogical. So have you met with people's like, I had this similar thought, and I'm still not 100% sure that spirituality can answer all my questions. I'm still thinking that I'll have to explore a lot on my own to find out my answer to my own questions. So have you met people like me?
And again, Ankit, I love this question. I have met people like you. And the first person I met like you was the person I used to see in the mirror. So I was the same, you know. And I truly believe that, you know, our greatest purpose is to live fully this adventure of life and discover who we are in each moment as it reveals itself. Because who I am now is different to the person I am now, literally 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of life. And I never want to be attached to one version of me, because then what ends up happening is I'm limiting myself to the potential of who I will become, not who I can become, who I will become. So let's go back to this idea of science, right? And logic and spirituality being in many ways illogical. Now, what I would say to someone like me, who was a non-believer of spirituality and very science-based, and maybe someone like you and other people listening, is that remember, as a scientist, everything was illogical until it became logical. So you have to remember where we started. Everything began from the unknown and not making any sense. Once upon a time, someone looked up and saw the moon and said, one day I'm going to put a man on the moon. And everybody in the world, I'm pretty sure, the majority of people in the world thought that person was crazy.
Yeah.
And now it's not so crazy anymore. Okay? So I'm using that as an example because, of course, everything is illogical until it's logical. Everything is crazy until somebody does it and shows and normalizes it. Everything is impossible until there's evidence that it is possible. So I like to live life, again, from the lens of this inner child's part in me, because if you can remember as far back as when you were a child, that you lived life in the present moment, everything was possible.
Yeah.
Were you that little boy who maybe fantasized, dreamt of being a superhero? And all you needed to do was take a tablecloth, right? Or a sarong or something, tie it around your neck. And in an instant, nobody in the world could tell you that you were not a superhero, right?
Yeah.
Everything was possible. And so we still hold that magic within us to be open, to be surprised by life, because when we're open to be surprised by life, then we see life differently. Then we get to explore and discover new things in life. If you look at the innovators and the pioneers and the absolute creatives, these people who discover new things, that's the mindset they have. They're open to discover.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I think it's your own beliefs that restrict you from like trying out new things. Like you,
Absolutely.
that's an interesting concept I found. Like I had someone might have a lot of struggle inside themselves to figure out new things which conflict with their community or the tribe or the religion they belong to.
Yes.
So that's the limiting factor there. Let's say I'm from X religion, and if I found anything interesting and worthwhile in Y religion, so there's a lot of preconditioning inside me, and a whole lot of, we can say, previous we can say biases toward that religion, that's limiting me to experiment and learn more things about it. And I'm pretty
Yes.
sure there's a lot to learn there. So
Yes.
yeah.
And that's why the communities, the societies, or the company that we choose to keep is very important. But also knowing that over life, the course of your life, like how many out of 10 friends that you knew when you were 10, how many are you still friends with?
One.
There you go. You know, because we grow, we change, and we evolve, and we change the people that we are around. So often we have this attachment because of safety. It makes us feel safe. But I think the biggest limiting factor for us for growth, or when we know we want to explore something different or something challenges our belief, is more, who am I now? Who am I now that belief has been challenged? What does that mean about me? What does that say about me? I think that's the key thing. We tend maybe to hide behind, oh, my family don't accept me. Oh, my friends don't accept me. But the truth is, do you accept you? We become so attached to the identities. And spiritual exploration is about surrendering your attachment to identities.
Interesting. And I think that word spirituality has been so abused by everyone else, because I
Yes.
I was listening to this guy. I'm forgetting his name, but he goes with something related to the quantum science. So quantum science is something which we can say in the science has, it's in this early stage, and there is a lot of experimentation and a lot of new things happening there. So scientists themselves are proposing a lot of new theories and a lot of new, we can say, concepts. So he picks that concept, somehow molds it into spirituality, and then says that you are manifesting what you are thinking. So I don't know if you read this book called Secret, and there are a lot of people who are a strong believer in that, and there are a lot of people who strongly oppose that. And most of the science community straight up says that it's a bullshit. You
Right.
shouldn't listen to it, and it will do more harm than it will do good. So what's your take on that, like using science to justify spirituality?
My take on that is like with everything, which is personal discernment. So there are aspects of the book, I've read the book, I've seen the movie, I've done a lot of workbooks around it. And I think when people are searching for an answer outside of themselves, anything they adopt is dangerous. Because what we're doing is we're handing our power away. We're saying, someone give me the answer. Give me the answer.
Yeah.
If, however, that person goes through with awareness, right? Like, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to take this information in, and then I'm going to decide for myself how much of this resonates with me, and constantly maintain and hold my awareness through this journey so that I don't become blinded and intoxicated and dependent on this information, because then it becomes dogma. Like with anything, it becomes dogma. We go into autopilot.
Yeah.
So that to me applies to both spiritual practices, spiritual teachings. It also applies to science, because as I mentioned earlier, everything was unknown, everything was illogical, everything made no sense until it made sense. And how we make sense and logic out of something, especially through science, is we create rules, right? If this, then that. When this happens and you combine this, I mean, I'm obviously simplifying this, but I'm also speaking to a scientist, so I hope this translates well, right? We figure out these rules, these formulas that make sense of things. But again, just because the formula has been made doesn't mean that it can be proved otherwise. Again, as we know historically, how many scientific principles have been overturned? So we always have to be aware and say, yeah, I've studied this makes sense, but I'm evolving, the world is evolving, and life is evolving. So I'm open to things changing, expanding, the information shifting, the perspective actually even contradicting the rule that is given right now. I'll pause there. Does that make sense? That's kind of my perspective on things.
Definitely. And I don't know if you want to go there, but in the past I used to like when the religion and everything was the biggest, we can say, a rule book of how to live your life.
Yes.
And when it was there, it gave you some kind of code of conduct to how to live your life, and it provided you with the rules and everything like that.
Yes.
But then science came and technology came, and people are like, I think what convinced people to the religion, like they believed in that miracles and everything like that, because that was something superhuman attached to that. But when the science came, and slowly people got people were able to find something which were not logical in there. And then some people went to the complete opposite direction, like whole religion is like it's not of any use, and we should like trust science and stuff like that. So what we generally call as atheist. So now there's a big void left by the religion. After the religion left, there's a big void, and they're trying to fill it with the spirituality. Like they wanna find morals and what ideal human should be through that spirituality and stuff like that. So do you think spirituality can fill the void of religion which is missing from our daily life? I don't know who said this, but God is dead and we killed it. I'm forgetting, is it Nietzsche or someone like that?
Oh, Nietzsche, Frederick.
Yeah.
Again, I think generation after generation, you will have radical thought leaders and spiritualists and religious leaders as well. And I don't think there's one size fits all. I think to me the power comes potentially through the practice of mindfulness, and there's many different forms of mindfulness, right? There's mindfulness in nature. There's even with meditation, there's walking meditation. My preferred introduction to mindfulness and meditation is actually through music.
Yeah.
Now, purists will say, "Oh no, it has to be done in silence." Well, if it works for you, great. I don't believe in being restricted or constricted. I believe and I remember and I abhor, I encourage everybody to remember there are no two people who are the same in this world. So it's really important that we discover what's right for us today and be open to knowing that what's right for you tomorrow may be different. So let's live this life and have fun and enjoy and explore and discover together. And is spirituality going to replace religion? The honest truth is, Ankit, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, I actually don't really care, because I'm on my own journey of discovery. And what I want is to surround myself and also hold space for other people to step back into their own power. So I'm not depending on spirituality, neither am I depending on religion, nor am I depending on science to justify and explain what I am experiencing of life. because only I can experiencing it. Nobody can challenge what is real for me. And my greatest purpose, and I believe everybody's greatest purpose, as I mentioned earlier, is to be you. And a lot of people are like, oh, what does that mean? That means exploring and living life fully the way you see fit for you every day. It's as simple. I say it's as simple as that. So as you know, I'm starting to build a community of like-minded people who are curious, who are open, not open to being challenged, but open to explore new thoughts and ideas and see what works for them. See what makes sense for you. We're not here to fight each other. We're here to be with each other, learn about each other, because when we learn about each other, we also learn more about ourselves.
Yeah. Interesting idea. And I was just researching about coming from the science background. Everything I found, I look back into figure out what they are saying about this. So this is really interesting. Like, we still do not know what makes music so much impactful, and why certain people are very much, we can say, they get goosebumps. So it's the case with me. It's a French term called frisson. Like, when you hear music, you will get goosebumps. It's very, like, some people get that, some people don't get that. So that's a complete different field. Like, people are still not sure in the science, like, what makes music this much impactful. Is it does it have some evolutionary benefit, like, to use music, or is it just a side effect of another, like, language and stuff like that, and community building? So music is some completely difficult, like a different topic for me. It's on that verge of spirituality and realism, because there's a pattern and chords and stuff like that. So it follows a structure, we can say a mathematical structure, but there's a structure at the same time. It goes to beyond science, like, it's not limited there.
There you go. Yeah. And this is why I say I would invite all scientists and spiritualists to say this is a perfect opportunity to come together and discover together, not be limited by your own beliefs. There is a place where both science and spirituality can exist together. Why not learn together? But you see, what happens is we get so, and I say we, human beings, by conditioning, get so possessive about their beliefs. It's like, oh, this is my belief because it defines who they are. Right? But we forget we're always growing, we're always evolving, and we forget also how exciting it is to make a new discovery. Isn't it exciting?
Yeah.
Right? We lose sight of that. And absolutely, music, I mean, there is so much science behind it. And I, at one point in time, I really wanted to learn about the science behind it. My background is I'm a musician. And I thought, I'm not going to get into my head about this because I know what I feel. I know what I feel when I write music. I'm inspired. Break down the word. Just like inspiration, it's in spirit. There is definitely something spiritual in the sense that it's intangible. It's a powerful energy that comes through me. Right? Where is the science? Can science explain that yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. But you see how I use yet? Because I believe in science. I also believe science will always be playing catch up to the incredible world and the incredible miracle that we are. And I use the word miracle because, of course, it's a miracle. Look at the life we are. Look at how amazing it is that two human beings come together and create life. To deny that as a miracle is to deny our humanness, I believe.
Yeah.
And so they can. I believe that spiritualists and scientists are arguing over something that essentially they actually agree on. They're just using different language for it. What are your thoughts around that? Because you're a scientist who's been curious about spirituality. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, you will have to be a lot more skeptical. Coming from the background of science, you are already skeptical, but even when you find anything about spirituality, you will have to be skeptical. Just to accept it on a face value would be a disaster. Like, there's a whole lot of baggage that comes with spirituality, and where are you learning from it? That's also a different factor in there, because the person who's teaching will somehow it will affect the teaching, his or her teaching. the way he's teaching or whatever he's teaching, it will include some of his own thoughts and personalities and stuff like that. So
Yes.
that can somehow, so it's like you'll have to try by yourself. Whatever is teaching, you'll have to try by yourself and figure out, is it working for me or not? Because I've tried meditation and around 2 or 3 times, and every time I've fallen asleep in half an hour. Just on, like where I'm sitting, I will just fall asleep. So
But who's told you that that's bad?
I don't know, but I'll have to. That's what I had in mind, that I'll be awake up to 1 hour, like an hour, but around 30 to 35 minutes, I will just fall asleep.
So let me tell you this. Let me share this with you. In order for your sympathetic nervous system, now your sympathetic nervous system is the one that gets you into the fight or flight mode. Okay, it's the one that keeps, it's that high energy, high active one. Well, let's just call it sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. In order for your body to actually shift out of that, you need to be meditating for a minimum of 25 minutes. So once you hit that mark, your body switches into your parasympathetic nervous system, which cultivates, the rest and recover. So you just said to me, you tend to fall asleep around the 35-minute mark.
Yeah.
Does that now make sense?
Yeah. It's making sense now.
So therefore, don't beat yourself up about it. Because it makes sense. So the deepening of the practice of meditation beyond 35 minutes is to create an awareness is practicing being aware beyond the 35 minutes. It's not that you failed, that you slept. In fact, if you fell asleep, it means you succeeded in switching yourself into the parasympathetic.
Interesting way to look at it, for sure. Yeah. And like spirituality is, so what I've been constantly thinking about this, that here in India, the meditation was the way of life. Like every act we were doing, it was in the way of life, until like things changed and everything changed, like whole cultural shift happened. But before that, every act was some kind of meditation. Like even the work you were doing, like you were cooking, so that was in some kind of form a meditative practice. Even if you're like washing your clothes, so that was we can say therapeutic process. But nowadays what I'm seeing that there's a, I don't know if you're aware, but that there's Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Like you'll have to meet your basic need first, and unfortunately spirituality and everything, like about mindset and everything, is on the top. So you'll have to work a lot and get every need fulfilled, then you will have time for that we can say inner peace. So how do you think that, like, because I have been on the same journey, I'll have to like it's very important to be physically secure and have their food and everything, stuff like that, and clothes and stuff like that. But where this stops, like now I'm ready for like spirituality, or now I'm ready for inner peace. So how do you, like, have you met people like this who are on the same journey?
I have met many people like this on the same journey. I was on the same journey too. And I have to admit, and this might be a radical perspective, but I'm sure many people have the same idea, which is, I believe that we are controlled by a system that whose greatest purpose is to control us, and it has commercial value. It's big business, Maslow's hierarchy of that pyramid, like you say, we have to work through in order to get to spirituality. But Ankit, how about we consider that we're born spiritual? Because when we're born, we don't have beliefs. We have no limiting beliefs. You look at a child, a toddler, they are part of life, right? They follow a butterfly, they go to a flower, they play. When they know what their needs are, they don't label it with a word in their minds. They know what they need, and they go and get it, or they find a way to fulfill that. They may not have the physical ability, but if they have parents or a caregiver, they know that they need to ask for help and support. So they're spiritual. We are spiritual in the sense that we're in spirit. We're being guided by the spirit within us, the intuition within us. We're part of life. We're responding to life. And then what happens is we become more and more detached from this very natural state of living as part of life. Now, with that hierarchy of needs, and we're told, oh, we have to do this, we're being given a to-do list of life.
Yeah.
Why? It's because that buys into commercialism, doesn't it? If I have to have my needs met, I need to get an education, tick that box. I need to then get a job, tick that box. And then within each of those categories, there are other things that we need to do in order to achieve it. So we're always chasing. Life becomes a chase. It becomes all about goal setting and going for those goals. And that's everything that's outside of ourselves. But if through practices of meditation and mindfulness, for example, and we strip away what we need outside of ourselves and come home to ourselves, then all we have is inner peace. Everything above that is a bonus and a benefit. Now, comes across probably as a very idealistic point of view, but I just want to bring it home to this. Why are we allowing ourselves to be told that inner peace can only be achieved after all these other things? Isn't it our job? Isn't it our adventure to discover what inner peace means for us and maybe flip it on its head and say, you know what? Let me create inner peace now, because the truth is, Ankit, if you have inner peace, you want for nothing.
Yeah.
You're happy with life exactly the way it is. It doesn't mean you can't want for more. What it means that is if you want for more and you don't get it, it's okay, because you can be at peace with what is. So I'll kind of pause it there, because you've taken even me on a journey, like thinking, wow, yeah, I forgot about that.
Interesting. And there's a term called keeping up with the Jones. It's on the West. Like you'll have to be this.
Yes.
And in our India, we call it Sarmaji ka beta. So that's like son of Sarmaji. So
right.
There's a similar concept. Like you'll have to be like them to be like perfect. Like you have achieved something. So that's a standard there. And we as a marketer did a lot of, so I will bring my whole community into this. Like we have done this, like we have made that gold standard, like you have to be this and this to achieve and be successful.
These metrics.
Yeah, these metrics. And we are still doing it. It's not a new thing. We are just playing around here and there, just coining different terms, but we are still taking you through the same journey. Like now even we have commercialized the spirituality. So that's the new thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
That's like that's a market. Like, if you give us anything, we will commercialize it.
Yeah, and my journey, my exploration with marketing and branding is actually to bring people back home to themselves, which is to do the opposite, which is to say, hey, come join me, come join the community where our belief, there we go, belief again. Come and join the playground. You've heard me say this, the playground, let's play together and discover life together, so that you become a sovereign being again. Sovereign meaning you notice when you're being influenced. You notice when something is being sold to you. There's nothing wrong for something being sold to you, but you're making your decisions from a place of awareness, not because somebody has charged your emotion up or because they've sold you the metrics, because the metrics may not have been something that you ever valued in the first place. It's that, and I'm going to use this word mindfully as well. You've been manipulated.
For sure.
Yeah. Emotionally, mentally manipulated. And there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody has a purpose. My purpose, for example, is to bring mindfulness and music to people. Does that mean I'm going to manipulate people? Maybe, but what is my intention? My intention is to bring inner peace. And either it's for people or it's not. I need to get that message out. So marketing is an interesting thing. It's very interesting.
Interesting. And whoever I've worked with, they do not have ill intention in their mind. Like even where they are like deploying techniques, so they think that they are doing right, but in the long term it turns into something different. And I'm pretty sure that they are themselves not aware that how much damage they are doing when using these techniques and stuff like that. Because just to earn more money, they are willing to use these techniques and create a whole lot of new problems. So that's completely interesting topic. And to make them aware is that different beast in themselves, like to make each decision maker aware that you are doing this much damage by using these psychological tricks and stuff like that. Like, who will be up to task to tell Mark Zuckerberg that the like button you have installed on every interaction is causing this much harm to the teenagers and stuff, and is completely changing the psychography of a whole generation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are in their own, we can say, echo chamber and stuff like that. So that's a complete different thing. Interesting.
I mean, the word manipulation is very charged, right? And essentially, I believe that if you were being true to the word, it's manipulating with ill intent. But I occasionally like to use the word manipulate because, like I said earlier, right, everything is illogical until it's logical. And for a lot of people, some things are just not possible until they say it's possible. So if you can manipulate the information in a way that helps people see potential, so without the ill intent, I still think that's manipulating, because I take a piece of plasticine or soil and I'm manipulating it. I'm changing the shape, maybe into a shape that you understand better than somebody else. So I'm very mindful about the way I use the word manipulate. But we are living, as you mentioned much earlier in this call, Ankit. We're living in a world where people are becoming more aware, more curious. And more than ever, there are opportunities for us to play together and be curious together, just like you inviting me to be part of this interview. It's been so much fun, and there's no right or wrong, right? It's as I said, learning about each other, through each other, and with each other, just like on a playground.
Yeah. And I'm pretty much like, the music is still mysterious to me, so I will go back to that. So do you think music is some form of emotional manipulation?
It can be. It can, well, yes, it is. I just talked about manipulation, right? Yes. It can be, in the sense that you can use music to shift the way you feel. Just, for example, getting, that's why people play upbeat music at a party, because to get people in the mood. It's why when we're feeling sad or heartbroken, especially heartbroken, you're less likely to listen to happy songs and more likely to listen to heartbreak songs, because the song is actually holding space for your emotions. I'm not sure if I would call that manipulating. I would probably call that honoring your emotions, because we're so uneducated in our emotions. Our whole education system is pretty much built around the thinking mind. Logic, being logical, the scientific, based on everything we see outside of ourselves. We're not taught about emotional intelligence. We're not taught to go inward, generally speaking. Of course, you went to a school where they taught you meditation, so that was there. And even when you say don't teach teenagers, don't bother teaching teenagers meditation, it's all a process. I even until today, I've been meditating. I've been practicing meditation for like 8 years nearly. And I still have my days where I'm just like, oh my God, this is so hard. Because I'm human.
Yeah.
And I laugh at myself. I laugh at myself constantly looking at my clock, thinking, is it half an hour yet? It's only been 3 minutes.
Yeah. That's the thing there. And I'm very surprised, like, why does sad music work when you are feeling sad? Doesn't it sound counterintuitive? Like, when you are sad, you should listen to happy songs to make yourself happy. But it works other way. Like, when you are sad, and if you feel like listen to sad music, it helps elevate your mood. So why is this like that?
My experience, both with myself, listening to sad music when I'm sad, also having created sad music, and the clients that I've worked with, is that, we have these emotions that don't feel comfortable in our bodies. And therefore we want to escape the emotion, right? So you said it's counterintuitive to feel sad and listen to a song that's going to make you feel sad. You want to quickly get out of that space and be happy. But that sad emotion is there for a reason. It needs to be felt. And so intuitively, not sort of counterintuition is actually when the mind says that doesn't make sense. But clearly the body knows what it needs. And it wants to listen to sad music because, and this is where languaging comes in. A lot of our culture tells you, oh, stop wallowing. Right? And that's discernment piece. When we're aware, I know when I'm wallowing and I know when I need to simply feel my sadness. Just feel it. Feel it. This is why listening to music can be a mindfulness practice. Listen to the song, feel my emotions, journal. What are the stories? What are the things I'm saying to myself? Oh, he was a beep, beep, beep. Oh, she broke my heart. She lied to me. I feel betrayed. I want to, journal. As you're feeling that emotion, you release the charge, because emotion, people play with this energy in motion. Because it's energetic. You feel emotion, right? You feel it. You discharge it by writing, by journaling it, using the music to hold the space for it. It's like the car, it's the vehicle. I guarantee you after X amount of time, and I say X because for everybody it's different, right? That emotional charge will dissolve because you've honored it. You've allowed yourself to feel it, and you have, through a practice of awareness, observed the narratives, the stories, the feelings, whatever it is that's coming through. You've allowed them to come out of you.
Yeah, for sure. And there's an interesting term I noted on your YouTube About page. So it was about intergenerational trauma. And I'm stuck on that. Like, what does it mean?
So intergenerational trauma is, this is going to be interesting for you as a scientist, okay? So it's referring to so we all experience trauma in our lives. Trauma exists on a spectrum. No two people have experienced the same amount of trauma, okay? And this is a, trauma is something that's constantly, we're discovering more and more about it, okay? Now, trauma can begin at a level where you were told as a child that children are seen and not heard. So every time you wanted to say something, you were like shushed. Okay? That is a form of trauma because it teaches us that my voice doesn't matter. I'm generalizing right now. I'm giving one example. Okay? Now, let's use that as an example. So I was told I was shushed, to be shushed all the time. So I now am in a belief that my voice doesn't matter. So I live my whole life always muting myself, never really speaking my truth, right? And so there's a part of me that feels contracted, feels small in my body, okay? I have children, and whether I have them, I birth my children or I adopt, doesn't matter. I bring up children in my care, right? So because I'm living my life from that belief, everything about my aura, everything about my behavior carries this energy of being minimized. So I just want to pause there. Does that make sense to you? Because you are a scientist.
About the aura stuff, not very much. But
no, about the behavior.
Yeah, for sure, behavior.
About the behavior. So as children, anybody under my care are going to be around this behavior. I'm modeling a certain behavior to them. And part of that behavior might also be that every time they speak, I go, shh. Because that's how I learned. I learned from that behavior, right? And I didn't learn that was not healthy for me. So I then passed that trauma intergenerationally down.
Okay.
That's one. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's one example of actual behavioral pattern. Another example that people in this field talk about is epigenetics. It's actually in the genetics. So, and we have a full-bodied experience, and that is programmed. It's imprinted in our DNA. I won't be able to talk to you about the science behind it. To me, it makes sense because I know I live life as a full-bodied experience. When I see something, my mind, through practice, has less of an authority over my lived experience. So I have a cellular experience in life, so I know my experiences are programmed into my cells, okay? Therefore, if I were to have a biological child, let's use the biology, some of my DNA is going to be in that kid. So I'm passing on my imprints in my DNA to my progeny.
Yeah.
But the truth is, everything that's imprinted in my DNA is being expressed in my very being, in my very living.
Yeah.
So already just through my behavioral patterns, the trauma that I've also experienced, I'm passing intergenerationally. So often experiences that I've been doing a lot of this myself, I've been doing this, I don't like to use the word work, but I will use it for now, journeying intergenerational trauma with my mother. And how I do that is I ask her questions. I ask her questions about her childhood, about her teenagehood, what it was like when she was 20, 30, 40. I bring different situations to her. Like, why didn't you smoke? Like, what was it like dating? And when I learn from her, when I'm curious about her life and her upbringing, and I don't look at her through a lens of she is my mother, but she is a human being, the insights I get into how she has formed her experiences and how that's affected the way she's parented me has been mind-blowing, because it shed a light on my own behavioral patterns that I realize I've adopted, and actually they're not even mine.
Yeah.
I can literally drop them because I'm like, okay, now I know where it comes from. It comes from her. No wonder every time I felt that way, it didn't feel comfortable. It doesn't belong to me. It's not my experience. And so through awareness, I can just make a choice, no more. And literally it drops off. It's very powerful. I can talk for many hours about intergenerational trauma, but I just wanted to touch on those 2 points. Does that?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm sure that a young baby learns a lot from imitation. Like, it imitates a lot. It copies who are around mostly their parents. So that's there. And I've been talking with a friend about this, and I'm very much made a controversial statement, like most of the parents are not ready to have a child.
Absolutely. It blows my mind, right? In most countries, you need a license to drive a car.
Yeah.
You have to be old enough to drink alcohol. Okay, forget about the drinking alcohol, the license part. You need to have a license, right? You have to have a license to be a therapist or even any of these things. But anybody can become a parent. I mean, think about it. That's kind of insane.
For sure, definitely.
And there's no parenting school. I mean, we're not even taught emotional intelligence at school.
No,
The
not at all.
majority of the world don't even know what emotions are. They know 3 emotions: happy, sad, angry.
Yeah.
Which is why it's my calling, my mission to bring sort of emotional healing through music and mindfulness through to people in a way that's playful, because this kind of healing, and it is healing work because it's painful, to discover more about yourself in a very in-depth layer. It can be scary, but it's also incredibly expansive. It's incredibly, it's mind-blowing. And the more you feel, the more you can appreciate. That's the other thing. A lot of people are like, I don't want to feel so much, it's scary. But you imagine if you close your heart, you're also, to protect it, you're also unable to receive. The more open your heart is, the more vulnerable. But you get to still experience everything. That means the highs and the lows. But if you experience the highs and the lows together in a safe community, I can't think of anything better than that.
Interesting. And about that musical healing. So, apart from intergenerational trauma, there's a lot of stuff like PTSD and stuff like that, which people have gone through.
Yes.
So, how much do you think music therapy and what you offer can help in that? Like,
yeah, thank you for that question. Again, it's really important for me to mention that, there is no one size fits all. And I have come across somebody before, we were in the same conversation, who is actually traumatized by listening to music.
yeah.
And I always encourage people, I always remind people that no one knows you better than you. And so full permission always to be guided by you. You can rely on yourself. If you feel it's unsafe to listen to music, then don't listen to music. If you are curious about listening to music but feel unsafe, then reach out to somebody who can support you, guide you. I will say hold your hand with you, someone of authority and expertise who can take you through it step by step. Music is very powerful, so it doesn't surprise me that for some people, especially those who who journey with PTSD, it can be overwhelming because it takes you straight into the experience, right? But it doesn't mean it's impossible. What else would I say? Yeah, that's pretty much what I would say about that. Because music basically touches us beyond our mind. And our mind loves to justify everything, right? It loves to analyze everything. Because it's there, it's wired to keep us safe. But what happens is, when we become so limited by the mind, it cuts us off from our heart. And our heart is where the abundance comes in, right? Living life with an open heart. Even the words say it all.
Interesting concept. And I've been I think that music therapy is very similar to exposure therapy. We can say that, like you somehow you are taking them back to that same event, and they are getting that exposure, like they are facing that emotions once again. So then how do you redirect that energy, like whatever past emotions they have? So do you embrace that and turn it into completely different thing, or do you redirect it to something else, like that past emotions and past experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So I want to be very clear. I am not a certified music therapist. So I don't practice whatever the principles are for music therapy, sort of your traditional music therapy. What I do is therapeutic, using music as a tool. And my authority and expertise, and I say this with confidence and with love, is that I have been using music as part of my life I'm nearly 48. So I've been doing music, practicing music as a life practice since I was 2 years old. I've been singing. So my whole life, my dharma, my life purpose is healing through music. So I'm bringing my experience to this. So I've reverse engineered how I used music to heal myself, how I used music to hold me in my darkest, most traumatic experiences, and how it showed me that it can be this vehicle. So now coming back to your question. Again, no one size fits all. It really depends on the individual. The most important thing is, as a coach and a healer combined in one, is the priority is to build relationship with the client, the participant. Even if you've been with me in a group workshop, I'm even able to do it in a workshop. And the way I build relationship, it doesn't even have to be over a period of time. It could be in a 2-hour workshop, is I show up 100% as me. I model the behavior. I tell my story, and I show up perfectly imperfect. And that, to me, is where the magic happens. Because what people see and experience, so they feel it, is authenticity. And this is a word that's thrown around a lot. I know that. But it's truth. Now, the minute you see someone who's fully vulnerable, then we mirror that. There is a safety to also relax into that space. And that's why in the group session that Ankit and I were in together, we got to experience and witness somebody who actually is traumatized by music shift their experience within that session. And I had no idea this person was even traumatized. None of us knew, right? None of us knew. And this is an example of how, when you approach life ready to receive the unknown, magic happens. When you need to have a fixed outcome, when you need to know something is a sure shot, is when our vision and therefore our experience becomes narrowed. So anything that happens outside of that is going to throw you off course, right? Because you're expecting this. But I go into every session like this, open. And I'm there to listen. So first I build trust and relationship by being me. And letting people ask as many questions as they want. And I very strategically will play a song that I know or I trust within me is going to soften everybody's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
My strategy is to play and talk at the same time first. I'm not sure if you remember that. So I'll just play random chords and I'll talk. So what I'm doing is I'm getting people used to the tonality of my voice, the pace, right? I'll be as geeky as possible because I'm a geek. I'll make mistakes from the piano. Basically, I'm just living in the moment. So by living in the moment, I'm being a guide, a Sherpa. I'm guiding everybody to live in the moment with me, where we have no idea what's going to happen next. And 10 times out of 10, I will declare that to everybody. By the way, folks, I have no idea what's going to happen in this session. Let's have fun together. Let's play. And then from there, normally the songs are picked intuitively. So I'll ask questions. And because I have this years of experience of music, listening, discerning, writing, I trust that the song will come to my awareness that I will play. And that's the ability I have. I can play and sing. Or I might play it off YouTube. Or, depending on the situation, if people are wanting to interact with me, I'll say, hey, what song represents what you're feeling right now? And if they can't remember, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do this because I don't remember songs, I don't remember artist names. That doesn't matter. Then I'll say, share with me what you're feeling. Is there an emotion? Is there a physical feeling? And then again, I'll tune into myself and see what song comes up. Everything is very open-ended.
Yeah.
But my intention, my values are always curiosity, play, and freedom. When we're suffering, when there's trauma, we're not free. We're shackled by an experience and a memory. So my intention is always to remind everybody that freedom is in their hands. And it can be a place you get to through music, even if it's just for 30 seconds, even if it's for just a moment. And I have had the privilege to be able to witness some incredible transformation, just like the one we witnessed together. And I'll pause there.
For sure. And it was very interesting session. And I'm still surprised how the people like you can integrate emotions into the chords. I'm still not sure. I'm trying to learn music, so I've just bought a guitar, and that's completely magical and mystical to me. Like how simple chords can carry that much emotions. So I was listening to this interesting TED talk, and she said that emotions and the chords are within you, and whatever instrument you are playing, it just mimics that emotion through that chord. So
Absolutely.
That was really interesting.
You are a music at the end of the day, even our voice. We have the music, the message is music within us, and when we use our voice, that is a tune. We just don't see it that way because we identify it as spoken word. But I can speak like this, and I can speak super aggressively, Ankit, because I am not going to, or I could speak like this, Ankit, and I could say, I'm just not going to do that. But the tone shifts everything. Even the intention shifts everything. Because we are music.
And have you met anyone who's a pitch perfect? Like they can...
Many people. Many people. Pitch perfect. Pitch perfect just simply means that that which we have defined as a scale of notes. You can call a note A, sing me a high A, and they can sing that.
Yeah.
But really, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not quite sure there is a purpose, there's a use for being pitch perfect, but it's not required. For me, everything is about reconnecting people to the freedom of being in the present moment, connecting people to who you are right now.
Interesting.
Right now, who are you here?
Yeah. Wow. It's been an amazing conversation for sure. I loved every bit of it. So let us know where we can find you and how we can join community. Are you still accepting new members?
Yeah, I'm going to be accepting people. I'm inviting people to join me in my mindfulness in music community, which is on the Circle platform. And I am adventuring and exploring this new platform, and invite you to join me. It's free, and I'll be rolling out a membership at some point whenever it feels right. So come and play, Come and join me. I'm not sure where we put the link.
I'll put the link in the description.
Okay.
So
And follow me on Instagram. My handle's Melissa Indart. And I am going through an exciting rebrand right now. So my new website, melissaindart.com, will be launched very soon. So 3 things. Instagram, my official website, melissaindart.com, and join my community. You'll find the link because Ankit's going to put it there. For all spiritualists, for all scientists, and all non-believers. Let's all play together.
for sure. Interesting. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you.